the news on top of the hour.
Live from our studio in Georgetown.
Kaieteur Radio, 99.1 FM.
Welcome to this evening's newscast on Kaieteur Radio. I am Kevin Smith. Now let's get to the news in detail. After a careful review of the company's financial statements, chartered accountant Christopher Ram has found that CNOOC Petroleum Guyana Limited, the Chinese partner with a 25% stake in the Stabroek block, is poised to recover $39.4 billion for the decommissioning of wells and facilities for the Liza Phase 1 project. Decommissioning entails the safe removal of pipelines and other infrastructure that were fixed to the ocean floor to extract oil. Now, since this exercise runs into millions of dollars, oil-producing countries oftentimes establish a fund so that the operator can make deposits to handle those expenses when the time comes. If the money that accumulated over time is found to be less, the company is required to meet the shortfall. If the money is found to be in excess, a reimbursement is issued. This is standard industry practice. Guyana's production sharing agreements with ExxonMobil, Hess Corporation, and CNOOC does not conform to this international best practice, which ultimately safeguards the interest of the nation. In other news, a former Minister of Public Security, Kemraj Ramjatan, had sent 12 members from the Guyana Police Force and Georgetown City Constabulary to the USA to acquire special riding skills for quote-unquote high-class bicycles, which that country donated to Guyana. We learned of this after a civilian was caught examining one of the bicycles. While doing so, the individual was told to be careful as it is a high-class bike and ranks had to be sent overseas to learn how to ride them. The individual related that they became curious and asked to do a test ride. After being permitted to do so, the individual noted that the only difference between the bicycle and the Force's donated bike was that there are rash brakes and the seat is very comfortable. According to reports, 200 of the high-class bicycles along with accessories were donated to the Guyana Police Force by the US's Department of State through the Bureau of International Narcotics and Law Enforcement. An article posted on the U.S. Embassy in Guyana's website noted that the bicycles cost $145,000. They were handed over to Ramjatan, who at the time was in charge of public security. The police force received 170 bicycles, and the city constabulary received 30. The USA had told Guyana that they will be providing training for some of its officers to learn how to ride the bikes. The training commenced on November 28, 2016 and concluded on December 3rd. That should be December 2nd, 2016. And moving on. An undercover operation by police on Thursday led to the arrest of 4 bandits who were on their way to rob a businessman. The 4 bandits were captured between 17 hours 50 and 19 hours in Camberville, Georgetown. According to information, the men are known criminals by the police and were being investigated for a number of suspected robberies. GPF stated that its ranks first cornered one of the bandits, a 23-year-old, at a location in Camberville. They searched him and found an axe and a knife in his possession. The cops grilled him and put forward the allegation to him that he was on his way to commit a robbery. Realizing that he was caught, he decided to cooperate with the ranks and led them to arrest his 3 accomplices. He took the cops to a house in John Smith Street, Camberville, where one of the accomplices was found in the front yard. And moving on. Over the last 5 years, the International Monetary Fund, or the IMF, has being one of Guyana's key partners in developing the technical capacity that is needed to properly govern the oil and gas sector. In addition to this, the financial institution has been at the forefront of highlighting many loopholes in Guyana's oil deals, as well as its legislative and regulatory framework, which can aid in mitigating significant value loss. In this regard, it has produced several reports between 2015 to now, which offer critical recommendations that should be adopted. In spite of the prudent advice it has offered in these documents, there has been no significant progress by Guyana's political leadership on this front. And now let's tell you, a 23-year-old man was forced to run away from a house party yesterday after he was beaten and shot to his lower right leg for being in the wrong neighborhood. That wrong neighborhood was identified by police as the Pleasant squatting area on the east coast of Demerara. The wounded individual was beaten and shot around midnight. He told police that he was about to pour himself a drink at a party when his shooter approached him. Before beating him, the suspect reportedly told the victim that he, the victim, was in the wrong neighborhood. The suspect then began slapping him several times. It is understood that the victim was able to free himself from the beating and ran to find his bicycle. As he was riding out of the yard, he saw the suspect chasing behind and decided to ride faster. The victim claimed that when he looked back, he saw the suspect pulling out what looked like a gun. He then heard a loud explosion and felt a sharp pain in his lower right leg, which started to bleed. Meanwhile, with floodwaters remaining at a high level in several parts of the country, livestock, crops, and persons living in residential areas are still in dire need of support. As recent as a few days ago, President Ali, who has invited affected areas to gain a first-hand perspective of the situation, announced that it is now a level 3 disaster based on the advice from the Civil Defense Commission. This latest classification could see the administration seeking international help. Areas in Region 5 and 6 have been among the hardest hit, resulting in hundreds of livestock being trapped in the flooded areas. A ministerial visit to the Abari Conservancy and Maikoni in Region 5 on Saturday revealed the extent of the damage caused by the flood waters there. And to wrap things up this evening, let's tell you that a landlord is now in hiding after he reportedly set his house on fire to get rid of his tenant. According to a police report, the suspect has been identified as 56-year-old Mumtaz Ali of 152 Better Hope, East Coast, Demerara. The report stated that around 19 hours on Sunday at Ali's address, he set his room on fire due to a reported conflict he had with his tenant. It is understood that Ali had served his female tenant a lawyer's letter to remove from his premises, but she failed to comply. The tenant reported to the police that she and her children were selling food on the road when they observed smoke coming from the house. It was also reported to the police that the tenant and her children saw the landlord running from the house and into the neighbor's yard. The police and the Guyana Fire Service were summoned, and the firefighters managed to extinguish the fire, which only caused damage to the house. And with that, we've come to the end of this evening's newscast. I'm Kevin Smith. Thank you for listening. Coming up at exactly 19 hours 20 is The Glenn Lal Show. Tell it as it is.
Want value for your advertising dollar? Then place your ads on Kaieteur Radio's newscasts. Streamed live on 6 different mediums, reaching hundreds of thousands. Advertise today and watch your dollar grow. Call us on 225-8465 or 226-8210 today.
Kaieteur Radio.
Covering